So you mentioned about not being like fully fulfilled at work and purpose. Like, tell me a little bit about what was that situation?
Yeah, Muhammad, as Muslims, we're always told to do everything with ihsan, have clear intention. Um, and even when we're at work, our employers have rights over us. So honestly, I felt as though I just really wasn't fulfilling that right. You get to the stage where some days you get to work and I'll be there in body, but in terms of actually doing the work, I would get it done, but there was no fulfillment. And you can kind of tell when you're not excelling at work. So I'd get there, I'd want to quickly get back home. I
Mm.
would be doing the minimum to get away with it. And effectively, I could have done so much more. And I got to the stage where I was just getting out of bed to go to work was becoming a bit of a chore. And I was like, subhanAllah, I was like, yeah, this really can't be the way that we live our life. I honestly, and it sounds quite melodramatic, but I think once you get to that stage, you kind of understand. I feel as though I was trapped. And this is the crazy part, Mohammed, right? I was working for about 10 years. And within the first year, I disliked work. What happened is my first year, I was traveling to Oxford every day for 8 months. So you're talking at a minimum, it was 6 to 7 hours a day in the car for 8 months. You're talking
Wow.
continuous, right? That was my first job. Um, and I was really down. And the only reason I did that is because that year I was getting married. And so, it was either kind of, cancel the wedding,
Mm.
or basically do that. I sacrificed a lot for work. I did a lot of work and I put as much as heart and soul I could into it, but I just really wasn't fulfilled. And I think, if I'm really honest, I really came from a background once I think a lot of brothers kind of face this as well, and sisters, is that you come from a practicing environment from the Islamic society, from the ISAC, from the Muslims in your household. Then out of nowhere, you're propelled into an environment where there's majority non-Muslims, right? Who are beautiful
Mm.
people, nice people, absolutely no issues, but it's a complete alien environment. So you go in there, the issues of shaking hands, the issues of, going out to drink, the issues of salah, subhanAllah, even doing wudu sometimes was quite a stressful experience because I was just, kind of practicing then, amount of times I prayed in the car park, right?
Mm.
Not because I was embarrassed to pray, it's just I didn't really know how to approach that issue, and there was nowhere to pray, and it was quite stressful, subhanAllah. So you put all those things together and you think, what, it's not for me, right? It's kind of, you're just put into a completely alien environment and it's not something you're used to. You're outside of your comfort zone, your cocoon, and it was something which I found very difficult and challenging. And I think in the latter years, I became more comfortable with that environment. But that, it took years, and I think it was just that initial shock, which you're not prepared for, subhanAllah. It's just like finish university, go straight to work, and then you've got John, Joe, Jack all around you, and like, wow, okay. It's kind of like
Yeah, I mean,
it's a bit kind of I find it very challenging
it's
personally.
it's an amazing thing actually because you're so right. But I've never actually viewed it that way. Where it's true that when you're in
Mm,
university, you're in a very comfortable environment with school. Most of us
yeah,
that go to school in inner city places, the Muslims are usually the majority, or the black and ethnic minorities are the
yeah,
majority, right? And then from there you go to the
yeah,
workplace, which is the exact opposite. So it's
yeah.
true. Like being propelled in that environment is very very difficult. So like obviously like there was a huge stint where you actually worked from home a lot as well, right? So you kind of overcame that whole thing and you got to work from home in a corporate job. So in a way that was like a really nice setup, no?
100%, yeah. I mean, to be honest, the setup was fantastic, and I have to thank Allah because I've been very fortunate, Mohammed. So just quickly, when I got my first job, within I'd say about 4 to 5 months, I was home based, right? I mean, still having to go to client sites, and I was one of the first ones at that time as a graduate to get. I know it sounds like something small, but like a phone and a laptop. No one ever got one. So
Mm.
I think Allah was really kind of, you know, the path of me leaving work was set years back, right? I say as soon as I started work, I can see now how Allah was setting me up. Basically, I was home based then, and for I'd say of the 10 years I worked, 7 years were probably fully home based. Just the way it worked out. But it's still the element of logging in. When I used to put my username and password in, I just can't do this. But I think it's just the aspect of doing work which is not fulfilling because we're always told that whatever you do, it should be something that you have some level of enjoyment in. Because I found that because I wasn't engaged in it, I was doing the minimum, and it's not good, right? SubhanAllah, you have to kind of give your all because ultimately we will be accountable in front of Allah for the things that we did. and the things that we didn't do that we should have done whilst, people had rights over. So it was stuff like that which really kind of used to kind of play in the back of my mind. But yeah, as a setup, I was home based. If I'm completely honest, I even they paid for about 4 or 5 years my food, my bills, my car petrol, my apartments were paid for. I even lived in a penthouse. Right,
Wow.
to be honest, I didn't know what a penthouse was. I didn't know what a penthouse was, until I moved into one. So, in terms of being comfortable, right, Mohammed, I was completely comfortable. SubhanAllah, it's I had very rarely any costs, and we laugh about it, but after about when I first came back, I used to live in Warrington for 3 years. I came back to Birmingham. Me and my wife went out shopping, and because we were never used to the prices of food, because it's all paid for, we were like, wow, is that how much butter really costs? I was comfortable in that sense.
Why was it all
Just
paid
money
for?
and
What do you
kind
mean
of
it was all
dunya
paid
alone.
for? I don't understand. What do you mean it was all paid for?
So basically, because I was home based, as soon as I leave my door, I was basically all my expenses are covered. So I stayed away for 3 years, meaning that all my costs would be covered. So we used to do shopping, not really look at the prices and just receipt everything at the end of the month.
Wow, amazing. Okay.